We've now got to Te Araroa, which is about as far north and east as you can get on the East Cape, and we're at a park over property that we actually booked for 3 days, but it's got a pretty desolate feel about it, this place. And yeah, just the drive up over an hour or so. Looks like somebody else is just turning up. Yeah, it's really desperate around here, the communities and the state of the houses and the accommodation. I thought the Coromandel was bad once you got off the sort of main loop highway that goes round, but this is shocking. So I guess both of us thought as soon as we saw the place that we were probably just going to stay for one night. So I've just emailed the people that we're going to in 2 days time just to see whether they can take us a couple of days early, because that actually looks quite nice. So I think we could be off tomorrow, so we're about to head out this gate and walk into the settlement and check it out. Not sure what the barge is all about, but they obviously don't want it here. Not sure if you're going to be able to read that, but basically what it's saying is this tree is believed to be well in excess of 350 years old and reputed to be the largest Pahutakawa in the world. Well, it is impressively big, I have to say, in the sense that it just spreads all over the place. It's got a huge spread of branches coming out almost parallel and really low to the ground, and then shooting up. And you can get a sense of the size of it when you see Fassi down here. It's big. It's got an incredible, almost vein like structure with all these little roots and branches.
It's almost a mini forest on its own. If you look up here, it's like a mini forest. With the branch.
This is Hicks Bay. Doesn't look very appealing. I mean, the weather's not helping, but it's a sort of black grey sand, quite pebbly. So I guess even if the sun was out and it wasn't blowing a gale, I don't think it would look that nice. And this driftwood piled up here is amazing. This must have been washed down by the rivers that come off the East Cape, and then the tide washes it up here. It's like an impenetrable wall. You can't actually get to the beach. This must be the centre of Te Araroa. So to get your bearings, the Pahutakawa tree that we were looking at is just down there. The beach here is to your right, and the centre of the town features some toilets, some rubbish bins, a basketball hoop, a map which we'll look at in a second. And the ubiquitous Foursquare supermarket. There's even fuel here. Very sophisticated. Okay, so what's she popping at now? Here we go. Okay, you are here, just in case you didn't know. Big Pohutukawa tree to the left. Public toilets, very important. Rugby club, petrol, all the important things. So, maybe we weren't in Hicks Bay that we were looking at. Hicks Bay looks as though it's this one around here. We were sort of standing here and looking down there. There's a cafe as well. Let's go and check the cafe out. We decided not to check out the cafe, which is called the Kai Cart, because it smelt of real greasy cooking. But what is interesting is in the middle of nowhere, here we have an electric vehicle charging station. Of course, there's no electric vehicles here, but I guess if you were driving one, you'd be very grateful to come across this, I think, because it literally is the middle of nowhere. And yet again, a derelict building that I guess in its day was something important, but it's certainly not now. I like the way they've used the tyres though. There it is. Say goodbye to Te Araroa. After one night at Te Araroa, we've decided to push on. So we're heading down the only highway around the East Cape, which is State Highway 35. And we're heading for about 2 hours, and we're going to get round onto the west coast of the Cape. And unusually, there's some nice bush-clad hills straight ahead, which probably is what all of the hills on the Cape would have been like a couple of 100 years ago, before they got cleared for sheep farming. For those of you that are used to driving around in Europe, you can get small, quiet, minor roads that you can drive along for quite a long time and not see any traffic. And that's because all the traffic's on the auto routes, motorways, whatever you want to call them, or the bigger roads. Well, we're not seeing hardly any traffic at all here, and it's not because they're on the other roads. This is the only road, and as you can see, it's pretty twisty and turny. In fact, this is quite wide compared to some parts of it where it's quite narrow, and you get occasionally these one-lane bridges. And I guess it just illustrates just how remote this part of New Zealand is. There's just nobody living here, nobody moving around, no delivery trucks, nothing. So we've been going probably half an hour now, and maybe we've seen 2 or 3 other vehicles coming the other way. Oh, there you go. There's one now. You won't believe me now. But yeah, it's very different. For about the past 20 minutes, we've been trying to find somewhere to stop for lunch. And surprisingly, it's actually a bit of a challenge. There's very few places where you can pull off on this road. Just tiny little places, some of which aren't that attractive. Don't think I want to stop there for lunch. And there's quite a sort of wind blowing off the sea, so just stopping on the seafront's a bit of a challenge as well in terms of being comfortable for lunch. Okay, we're coming up to our next stop. We're supposed to turn off right here, actually.
In 500 meters, turn left.
There's the entrance to the beach. Dust nuisance.
600 meters, your destination will be on the left.
I'd say this is the place we're staying. The greenhouse up ahead. A couple of motorhomes there from the looks of it. Which way do we go? Let's go down here. Gee, it's packed. Okay. We've got ourselves set up now at our parking place, and it's actually got really busy. So for a relatively little place, they've packed everybody in. There's probably 7 or 8 different groups here now. So this is our little corner, and despite the high-tech look of iPads and computers, we're struggling a bit. There's no phone coverage at all, which none of the reviews had said anything about, so that was a bit of a shock when we got here. And I know it sounds great to think you've got no phone coverage and you're away from everything, but in reality it sucks, because we do work as we move around bits of it. We need to keep in touch with people, and you know, just as an example, today I was editing some film and I wanted to figure out how to do something, and I click on the help function and it tells me it can't tell me because I've got no internet coverage. It's just practical things like that. So we think we're probably just going to stay for tonight now. Originally it was going to be 3 nights, and push on to a more commercial campsite, which hopefully, because the schools are back, shouldn't be that busy, and there'll be shops and other bits of civilization. So yeah, I think the East Cape has beaten us basically. We're leaving early, just like we did on the Coromandel. There's a bit of a theme here. But anyway, let's go and just check out the beach, which I'm told is through one of these gates down here. It's not the sort of beach that you're going to go and spend the day on. It's pretty rugged. Lots of driftwood, lots of big shingly pebbles, grey. Not a swimming beach, I don't think, either. So apparently about half an hour walk in the direction we're looking is the Motu river mouth, and it's got some sandy beaches around the river mouth. But I think we'll just drive a bit further down the coast and find a genuine sandy beach. Yeah, I'm sure the East Cape appeals to some people. But it's a bit too rugged and remote, I think, for us. Beautiful in short bursts, particularly on a day with the weather like today, but not somewhere where you can spend a lot of time. We're now working our way off the East Cape, so once we get to Opotiki, which I think is only about 10 or 15 minutes away, I think technically we're off the East Cape then and moving into the Bay of Plenty. But as you can see, it's a beautiful morning today. The sea's like a mill pond, no wind, nice and warm, and we're hoping we're going to get a few days in a resort or beach area called Ohope, which is, yeah, as I say, just beyond where the East Cape starts into the Bay of Plenty. It should have a nice sandy beach as opposed to all the pebbly, rocky ones that we've been coming across over the last few days. You can see how close to the beach the campsite is, and there's some pretty good use of a couple of surfboards here for your shower. So by New Zealand standards, this is a big campsite. I think the space is for about 400 plus tents and caravans and motorhomes. So together with these rather flash looking cabins, of which there's quite a few, at peak time there would be 1,000, maybe a couple of thousand people on this campsite, and the facilities are really good showers and toilets, and obviously a great location, but it's pretty expensive. So we're paying $50 a night for the two of us, and to me that's quite a lot of money. But I can understand why they're doing this, because they're probably at or near capacity for only about 4 weeks of the year, which is, you know, less than 10% of the year. And even though it looks as though there's quite a few people here, that's because most people have opted for the seafront sites. Once you start getting back into here, which is where we're parked up, you can see there's just a smattering of people. So this campsite now is probably only about 20% full, and yet this is mid-February, so this is the equivalent in the northern hemisphere of the middle of August, where most campsites over there would be heaving with people. But because everybody sort of breaks up for Christmas a couple of weeks before Christmas, and then you get the Christmas break, it means everybody tends to go away in the period from basically, you know, maybe Boxing Day, 27th of December, 28th of December, and they all go away for 3 or 4 weeks, and then by the end of January, so again, Northern Hemisphere equivalent by the end of July. Everybody's back at school, everybody's back at work, and these poor campsites have still got to try and make some money to get over the quiet winter period. So I can understand why we're paying $50 a night, but it was still a bit of a shock when we rocked it up and she told me how much it was for 4 nights. We're now off the East Cape in Ohope, and it's quite a different beach from the ones that we've been seeing the last few days. It's a huge beach actually. It just goes on for kilometre after kilometre. Further up the beach we go, the more driftwood you get. The other end of the beach is there's just nothing, no driftwood at all. It's just amazing how you've got this almost graveyard for shells that have collected in this little depression. And then somebody has been doing some work with the driftwood up here. Not quite sure what it's meant to be. Every day we come on the beach, and every day there's a new structure being created. So there's obviously somebody putting quite a bit of time and effort into making these during the day. And they dig them in pretty deeply so that they manage to survive the tide coming in, because by the time this tide's fully come in, this will be well underwater actually, because you can see the tide mark up here, so the water's got a long way still to come in. I think at one point during the video you heard me say that the East Cape had beaten us, and certainly it did beat us. We spent a lot less time around there than we planned to. It seemed like every time we turned up somewhere, we just got a feeling that we wanted to go almost straight away, and certainly not spend 2 or 3 days there. So it's a place that a lot of people say is a great place to visit, and it's got character, and but I'm afraid it's just not for us, not our cup of tea. So I don't think we're going to be heading back to the East Cape again shortly. Ohope Beach is great though.